This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. With your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is the Stick Blade Podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. It is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings, all things Chicago Blackhawks, and NHL news. On tonight's show, we have a short episode. We're going to be talking basically the Blackhawks making some front office changes, also some injuries to key players, Kirby, Dach, and potential fringe player, Alex Nylander. Then also a signing that they made, what was it? I think 2 days ago with Soderberg. I almost said Soderblom, but we'll get to him in a second. And then on the wing side of the podcast, we're going to be talking about a couple of the players that they recalled from the Czech League, in particular, Michael Rasmussen, Matthias Brome, Filip Zadina, Filip Hronek, and then Gustav Lindstrom. And then also we're going to touch on some of their Swedish prospects who are playing in the World Junior Championship right now, because Sweden looks very good, and some of Detroit's arguably best prospects are on Team Sweden. So there's definitely a bright spot to talk about. So with all that being said, I'm your host for tonight, Jordan Linscott, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Tim Stompanato and David Barnhouse. Again, Nick is still MIA right now. We're hoping he comes back next week. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Doing well.
Holidays and getting through them and feeling good. And I think the Bears might be a playoff team.
Maybe.
So maybe I'll take it.
I can't say the same about the Lions, but I think
sure can.
things are good. Besides that, my master's classes are on a short break right now, so I'm reading a book for fun. So that's awesome.
So good.
It's a good feeling.
I mean, it's kind of nice just to get a break for the holidays. I mean, getting family together, having just like meals, like just like a Christmas get together or something like that. Awesome leftovers. Leftovers.
That's the true holiday gift, is the leftovers.
And they
Jordan,
just taste so good.
What's up with your Titans? Last I saw before we started, Green Bay was giving them a shellacking.
Yeah, so remember, I think it was 2 weeks ago when I said the Titans can either hang with top tier teams or just with middling teams.
Yeah.
Rodgers has basically torn the team apart.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing about the Titans defense is, like, some weeks they can stop teams no problem, and then other weeks just And it looks like this week is not one of those weeks where the stops are happening.
Yeah.
I think it's like 19-7 right now.
Rodgers is he's having a lot of fun today.
It's still close. Anything can happen.
I mean, that's true. Derrick Henry could just decide to run through people.
Rodgers could get hurt.
Maybe. I mean, how old is he now? Because, I mean, he's getting up there.
30-something.
Yeah, so I mean,
younger than Brady.
Yeah. That's the weird thing, though. Like, Green Bay, they don't even really have like a definitive like backup in their system right now, do they?
I mean,
they drafted Love, right? Jordan Love, is that his name?
Maybe
they used a top pick for him.
Yeah, and that was a whole like scandal and question going into the year where it's like, oh, are they moving on from Rodgers? And Rodgers was like, nah.
But that's going to be, I think, an interesting thing. Like, when he ends up leaving Green Bay, what are they even going to do? Like, is it going to be like a Patriots situation where Tom Brady leaves and then they look to free agency to fill that hole? Like, I'd be curious what Green Bay does, because their team's built around Rodgers.
They drafted Jordan Love very high. So that he might just be learning under Rodgers, and Rodgers may be hanging it up sometime in the future. It might be another Brett Favre situation where they're like, "Hey, we got this new young girl here, and the old news got to move on." But that Brett Favre like almost went to the Super Bowl with the Vikings.
I mean, it's interesting. I think though, just it seems like a lot of teams in the NFL are sort of having these weird transition periods right now from like these like franchise level quarterbacks who've taken them places.
Yep. Patriots missed the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, that's a treat.
we'll finally have different teams in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a Kansas City fan, so like I'm doing okay.
Aren't we all though? Like, it's just so much fun to watch Patrick Mahomes play.
You should have watched him during the rough years when Jamal Charles was the only thing we had going for us. That was those were fun times.
Jamal Charles, Priest Holmes, great running backs.
God, yeah.
Well, we're a hockey podcast, so let's go ahead and get talking to hockey before we keep going. So
we were badminton.
Badminton. I wonder if there actually is a badminton podcast somewhere.
There's a podcast.
I'll listen to it.
No, but we'll go ahead and just jump into hockey because hockey is at the end of the day what this podcast is for. So I mean, I feel like this week has a lot more Hawks news to talk about than there is Wings news. Just you guys have more going on with your team. So let's go ahead and just talk about, I think probably the biggest piece this week. You guys made a lot of front office changes going in. Let's go ahead and just walk through those really quick.
So we finally have John McDonough, before he was removed, was the president and CEO of the Blackhawks. His position then became that of Danny Wirtz, who was the interim president. We now have John McDonough's job has been split into 3 individual pieces. So you've got Danny Wirtz, who has ascended to the CEO position. We then split the president position into the president of business operations and president of hockey operations, which I think is a great move. Danny Wirtz even said when he was the interim, he's like, there's way too much going on for this to be one job realistically. And very excited about the president of business ops. Jamie Faulkner is the highest female business position in the Hawks now. So she is the president of business operations. She was in 2015. She was named one of Sports Business Journal's Woman Game Changers in Sports and named to the Sport Business Journal's 40 Under 40 in 2016. So super excited. I know she's done a lot of work in the service industry, like beverage and restaurant. I'm very, very excited for this fresh perspective and an outside look into the business side. You know, different marketing strategies, different, things we can do. And I'm very excited that the business side is now its own individual piece. That being said, the president of hockey operations now is our old friend Stan Bowman. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, great. We've promoted him up and now we've got a new GM, right? No, he's also the GM. And I have probably been one of the stronger Bowman apologists over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I still support Stan for the most part. Everybody makes questionable moves, especially when you're swinging for it every year. Like, I get it. My big concern is it's not easy to be your own boss. Right. That's the only major concern that I have is everybody needs somebody with either a second, like an oversight or a second opinion, someone that you're accountable to. And that's going to be really tough for Bowman policing himself as the president of hockey ops and as the GM. So fingers crossed, but aside from that major concern, I'm very excited about this Triforce of Blackhawks power.
It's interesting. With president of business operations, you can now charge, instead of $15 for a beer, $20 for a beer. There you go.
Oh no.
Business.
Yeah, that's that's what I'm hoping doesn't happen. That's the other direction.
See, you just got to put on some sweet promotions. I know Grand Rapids Griffins, because I live near Grand Rapids, the Red Wings minor league team. They were really smart with a lot of their business, like platforms they did. Like they had a lot of dollar beer, dollar hot dog nights. So those nights were always sold out and packed, and my friends and I would just go and just eat a crap ton of hot dogs.
I will say, I feel like a lot of AHL teams have really good, because like Rockford, the Ice Hogs have phenomenal promotional and marketing strategies. I feel like you've got to, since you're not like an NHL team. But that being said, I think that some of the most fun games I've ever been to have either been AHL or minor league hockey games.
Yeah.
Because they're a blast. There's so much going on because they got to draw people in.
And I think that was really cool how the Blackhawks kind of separated that kind of position into its own position so that one person can solely focus on that and filling the seats. Like Blackhawks are an original 16. You're not going to have a problem filling the seats.
No.
But I think in terms of making a revenue for the team, having someone focus solely on that aspect of it was a great idea, especially someone, as you read off her accomplishments and awards and recognitions, perfect for the job.
Oh, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to see what she brings. Just the little bits that I've read, trying to figure out, okay, who is this person? I'm excited. A lot of really cool visions. So I'm excited to see that. And I think splitting it up into two different positions also allows you to get a little more tailor made to who you're hiring. You don't need someone who has hockey experience and business experience, like things like that. You can get a little more tailored to each one. So Danny Wirtz did a great job as far as I'm concerned with ushering this new era. He's the one who really drove a lot of the transparency that we're seeing now. So seeing him move up to the CEO position, I'm all for that. I think that's great. Should be very, very interesting. Obviously, with COVID, it's gonna, it is what it is. But in 2-3 years' time, very curious to see how things progress.
No, exactly. I want your opinion on this, Tim. So it seems like in terms of management positions, it seems like a lot of Chicago fans are really torn on Stanton Bowman. Some like the work that he did in keeping the Hawks competitive in terms of like, I feel like, I don't want to say that your core players are out of their prime, but a lot of fans think that he did a good job managing Chicago's core, like cup contending team during their prime, finding good players to like build around them. And once that core has started to age, he hasn't been good at maintaining a talent level that keeps you guys in that race for like a playoff contention spot. Do you think at the end of the day, there's going to come a time where even though he's running hockey ops, he's going to have to sort of put, I don't want to say put himself aside, but basically say, maybe I don't have maybe the skill set necessarily to operate this club in a way that's going to make it the best on ice product, but I can still run it off the ice in terms of like how we're managing like a draft or the fan experience, stuff like that.
I don't think it's necessarily a lack of skill set. I know there's a lot of people that do truly believe that Stan Bowman has no business being a GM, which it's not true. It's just not true. But I think that there will come a time when we need a new voice and a new vision as the GM. And I think that's when Stan, whether there's pressure from other people, like I said, it's hard to hold yourself accountable. So it might come from the other two pieces of the triumvirate where they say, okay, Stan, for the good of the business, for the good of the team, we're gonna elevate you strictly to hockey ops, and we need a new voice. That's realistic. I mean, Joe Quenneville is a brilliant coach and phenomenal, but there comes a point in time when you need a new voice and a new vision. I push back a little bit that he hasn't done a good job replenishing talent and bringing people in. His drafting has been, again, the draft is a crapshoot, as we've all discussed 1,000 times. But he's hit more than he has missed, especially in mid and late round picks, given where the Hawks were picking for so many years. People got traded away, but when you look at Ryan Hartman, who we traded away, there was nothing really lost. Hinostroza Could we have used him? Yes, but we replaced people that were serviceable. Schmaltz, I prefer Strome over Schmaltz, but I think the issue with Bowman that people really get on, and where I have concerns sometimes, is the negotiating of contracts.
Okay.
I think his drafting is phenomenal. I think player development and the strings that he pulls, especially in negotiating with talent to get them over, is phenomenal. Even his trades, even the ones that we think are stupid and like we have the ability of looking at it going, oh no, what a terrible move. He's a schmuck. He's looking at it. There's a reason for the trades, and I can see. I might disagree with it, but I can see why he's doing what he's doing. The big issue for me is the negotiating with active and current players on contracts.
Okay.
And from a labor relations background, that is its own skill set that has nothing to do with hockey. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be, I think it'll be best for Bowman to move him up to president of hockey ops. He's a brilliant hockey mind. He knows the game. He thinks the game in a different way. Let somebody else in there with the negotiations. Let him be the big shot that comes in to help close a deal, not negotiate the deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you guys think? You've been hearing a bunch of Bowman stuff over the years.
I like Stan Bowman as a GM. I think a lot more than some of the other GMs in the league. I think that, it's so hard not to get overly attached to like this feel good sense of like, we're in the playoffs, so we have a chance at legitimately winning a cup this year. It's so hard not to get emotionally vested when you're seeing at least somewhat success. And I think Stan Bowman actually hasn't done a terrible job in terms of, looking at the pieces he has, evaluating them honestly and saying, okay, well, I have a couple good pieces here, but I don't think it's enough to get over this line that is like true contention. What can I do to get my team, maybe even not in a moment back to that line, but at that line in maybe 3 or 4 years? And I think he's actually made some half decent moves to do that. I mean, take the Brandon Saad trade, right? That's not a popular trade with a lot of fans, or at least it wasn't when it first got announced in Chicago. It was not a popular trade that a lot of fans were like, yes, that's a great trade.
Right.
But he broke down why he made that trade. It wasn't, he's trying to improve the team short term. It's literally, this player's being picked up to be like a mentorship type role, to fill a gap for the club, and to make sure that your future pieces are actually developing properly and are going to put you guys again in that spot where you might be a contender again in like 4 or 5 years. When a guy like Boquist, for example, really hits his stride when he's, 25, 26, he's making hard decisions right now. And I know it's not fun for fans to say, man, we're not in the playoffs this year, but it's growing pains. Eventually the train's got to come off the tracks to get, repaired. And I think he's done an okay job at taking it off and getting it decently repaired.
I'd rather see him acknowledging and making moves than just being stuck on a runaway train that's going to crash, frankly.
And he's a very smart hockey mind, like Scotty, the Bowmans. That's what they do. And I like that the idea of him like explaining things and retooling, like Jordan said, unlike what we had with the Wings, where we were in the playoffs for over 2 decades, and there was the last 3 or 4 years of it where like, this is not good, this is painful, we just need to stop. Like we were signing guys like Stephen Weiss to large contracts, guys like not Dallas Drake, Mike Modano, Danny Alfredson, guys that were past their prime, and it wasn't good. And that's why we're in this long rebuild that we are now, because we just didn't bite the bullet and do it. And I like how he's explaining it, and you guys aren't probably going to hit that point because of the smart retooling that you've been doing, and the blessings of draft picks you've had, jumping up in the draft like you've had. But yeah, I don't see an issue with him as much as some fans do, and that's just saying some fans like, you're used to what you're used to. You're used to making the playoffs. You're used to winning. When that's not happening, you get those sets of fans that just want to string people up and throw them out.
Well,
You know,
and Chicago, we're an emotional city, and
oh God,
we love
yes,
our
the
sports, and
Bears.
we've also ruined quarterbacks and have eviscerated young players that I thought you were it. I guess you're a bust. And it's like, I've been here 1 year. I beg of you, give me time. But that's Chicago. We love
Like
what we love, and we're passionate, and we get angry when we get passionate.
like you guys were pushing Derrick Rose to be the next Jordan, and Derrick Rose is Derrick Rose,
He's
and
phenomenal.
he fought hard, and that
Yeah.
cost him a lot of years because he just overdid it to try and be that next great thing. And no one's ever going to be Michael Jordan. Derrick Rose just had to be
Rose
Derrick
breaks
Rose.
my heart. Rose was so good. We should have done better by him.
But that's Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, look at the way that we've ebbed and flowed with Trubisky. It's the same way with Corey Crawford was a perfect example. Half of Chicago hated Corey Crawford. He was a bum. Get him out. Put in Darling. The other half of Chicago loved him, and oftentimes within a season, those two halves flipped. There's no law or reason with Chicago fans. We want it all.
Oh yeah.
But really, I think that's why I like Bowman as a GM is he acknowledges that you can't have it all in today's NHL. I mean, the league was so different when the salary cap was not a thing. I mean, the Wings are a great example of it. You know, Ken Holland held us in the playoffs probably for 3 years too many. And rather than do that, Stan Bowman is just looking at the Hawks system and saying, you know, I've got some decent pieces here, but I just don't have it all. Just start grabbing pieces right now, or not pieces, players who are pieces right now, but grab players who can be pieces later right now. And I think he's put you guys in a system and sort of in a place to do that. It's painful right now. Yeah, I get it. You guys are, you're probably going to be fighting towards the bottom with us this year. I'm not going to lie.
It's gonna suck. Yeah,
it's going to be awful.
That's what you're talking about. Like, you can't have it all, and having people being able to understand that. And that's what I just love about hockey is you never know where your team's going to be and what your team's going to do. Like with the NBA, it's the Golden State Warriors and whatever team LeBron James is on. It's with the NFL, it's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and Tom Brady. With MLB, it's the Yankees, it's the Dodgers, it's the Astros, it's whoever. With hockey, you don't know. We just had the St. Louis Blues win the cup a couple years ago. We had the Caps finally win a cup. It's just, you never know what's going to happen. And that's what I love about hockey and the fandom that it brings, and how some players, you don't have, yes, we have Connor McDavid and these superstar players, but it's not like LeBron James carrying an entire basketball team on his back and winning a championship with them. Hockey is a team sport, and it's about bringing those pieces in and having a GM who understands things like a Stan Bowman, like, here's how it is, and this is why I'm doing it.
And that's exactly, I love the fact that hockey, one superstar cannot win you everything. And in fact, we've seen a lot of teams. Listen, yes, Gretzky. But Gretzky also had people around him that protected him and were able to pick up all those assists and whatnot. Gretzky was a genius and the best, but he had a team. McDavid is a perfect example, and Austin Matthews is a perfect example of you can't just load up on the hopes of one or two people. The Hawks, we were at our best. Our dynasty years are when we could put out our fourth line against a first line and say, shut them down. Take care of it. Same with
the Wings. Same with the Wings.
If you're not running four lines and three defensive pairings, you're not gonna win. And that's the legitimate parity in this league is so exciting. You're absolutely right.
And like, that's the thing. I mean, the league in the NHL is, in my opinion, the best parity of any of the pro sports right now. I mean, any team, for the most part, has at least a true chance of somewhat beating the team that they're playing against. Now, there are teams that have terrible years, like last year. The Wings were abysmal. But, you have these teams who, even though, it's not the same talent level. Like, Connor McDavid is not on the same talent level as, a third string center, for example. They're two different players. But at the same time, Connor McDavid, great player, fantastic player. Leon Draisaitl, great player, fantastic player. But yet those two can only play, 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes a night. You have other players out there for 35 minutes who have to carry the load.
Yep.
And Stan Bowman acknowledges that. I mean, that's the thing you have to, like, most fans have to realize is you can have superstars. You need them generally to carry you into the playoffs and, to a cup. But at the end of the day, everybody has to be able to pull their own weight. And if you don't have a roster that can, you're not going anywhere.
No.
No.
I mean, look at last year. We were crapping on Dallas at the beginning of the year with how bad they looked, and then they go to the Stanley Cup final. Mm-hmm. It's just how the team gels and how the team works.
Yeah, the Carolina Hurricanes are a perfect example of a team that does not have Sebastian Aho, and Dougie Hamilton. They've got phenomenal players, but they're not a team that is driven by a superstar. They are a team that is driven by sheer chemistry and a tight-knit bond.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so exciting to me because of that.
And the way you get that is by a smart GM who knows who to bring in and how to put it together. Yep, it's like Moneyball.
And a coach that can get them to, mesh together.
And that's the other thing too. I mean, Stan Bowman, he makes decisions for the club, yes. But at the end of the day, he also has to lean, at least on some level, on his coaching staff, on his scouting staff, his player development staff. And you can't tell me he's not sitting there behind his desk making calls to those people and saying, how are players A, B, and C panning out? How are their transition games coming along? Are they really generating meaningful chances or production at the leagues that they're playing in? What steps are they looking to take this year? I mean, he's got probably 50 different phone numbers he's dialing at any given point just to get in contact with people. And he's balancing all those. It's a balancing act in this league. You can't just go to free agency, say, we're going to pay $12 million for this player, and then just oops, we're a contender now. Erik Karlsson's a great example of that for the San Jose Sharks. They picked him up and they did nothing.
Mm-hmm. He should have came to the Wings.
Yeah, the Wings could have paid him, but I don't think he would have came here.
They already had Brent Burns.
Yeah.
Now you have two guys who do the exact same thing. High risk, high reward, offensive, puck moving defenseman. You only really need, it's always good to have more puck moving and goal scoring defensemen. But each of those guys is vying for that exact same position. It's not like you have a guy that you can slot on your third line, shelter him some minutes, and just put him out for offensive starts. They didn't fill a need that they had in my mind. That to me, Erik Karlsson is brilliant, but you don't get him if you've got Brent Burns. You find another two-way or another shutdown D to, complement.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, right? San Jose already had that puck moving defenseman, scoring defenseman, and Brent Burns. They went out and paid premium for what they already had. I mean,
because Karlsson's a big name.
And he is,
in an area where hockey isn't the biggest thing, so you're trying to draw more people in.
Mm-hmm.
I get that from a business standpoint. I 100% get that. You want more people you can market, and San Jose doesn't have a ton of people that they can market. I love Vlasic. I think Marco Vlasic is phenomenal, but I love those kinds of defensemen. I know him for that reason.
But again, that's one of the things that Stan Bowman went out and picked up, Nikita Zadorov, right? I'm sorry, you're not marketing Nikita Zadorov to fans. You're just not. He's not putting up just crazy production that's lifting fans out of their seats. He's not sitting here putting up these crazy goals. But what's he doing? He's helping you stabilize your blue line so that you're not getting scored on all the time. He's helping shelter these younger players so they're not getting just overwhelmed. You need to make hard decisions like that sometimes. And I think Stan Bowman is showing that he's willing to make those hard decisions.
I would have been very upset had we traded Saad for another puck-moving offensive defenseman because we have plenty.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we got Zadorov, I'm okay with. Knowing, we don't have that legitimate shutdown guy. Murphy's more of a two-way. Dahan can he's more of a two-way, sides more on the shutdown. Zadorov is exactly what we need with someone that can play the body, shut down, and complement somebody who can actually go and play offense. Getting a need like that is why I still have faith in Stan Bowman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We can talk about some of the other stuff that the Hawks have going on, and this is not happy stuff to talk about, unfortunately.
Nope.
It's bad.
The boo-boos.
So we don't know how bad it is yet, though.
It looks wretched.
Nylander sounds bad. Nylander sounds real bad.
Nylander's is weird because I'll just jump right into it. So Nylander is out. Alex Nylander is out for 4 to 6 months with a knee surgery. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like they were trying to rehab it. He was doing some treatment on it. Knee injuries are so weird because it's the kind of thing you can either just rehab and it comes back on its own, or which I think it sounds like what they were doing since elective surgeries are kind of on hold with, COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like when he got back on the ice, it was a no-go. So he's going to be out. They said 4 to 6 months, and that's at this point, pretty that's the season. Which that is a huge blow for both the team and for Nylander, because he really needed this year to show a huge step forward and show that he deserves those top 6 minutes. It's sort of like how Evgeny Svechnikov. Yep.
Yeah.
He's gonna have a lot of guys like Philip Kurashev and Brandon Hagel, other guys that are climbing up. You've got Reichel right behind him now. Give him a year or two, he's gonna get passed up. And yes, he was inconsistent, but he also scored 10 goals and had a lot of positive, he showed a lot of signs of potential still.
Mm-hmm.
Losing him this year hurts our youth movement, hurts the Hawks because now we got to figure something else out there. And it sucks for Alex Nylander.
Yeah.
Because you never want to see someone's career. People can say what they want about him all day long, work ethic, all that stuff. He's a hockey player who loves the game, and he's out for a year because of just bad luck, basically. I hate that stuff.
Yep.
But he's not the only person we've got out that's going to hurt our youth wave.
Yeah, Kirby Dach got hurt at the World Juniors, and his one is a really weird one because you watch the clip that he got hurt on.
It's such a fluke.
Yeah,
it's so stupid.
You watch how he got hurt. So for anyone who hasn't really been keeping up with it, basically his wrist went the wrong way is the only way I can explain it.
I didn't like it. The pictures are wretched.
It's bad. So he has this really just it wasn't even really a heavy hit on anybody. It was just this weird little check on somebody basically towards the waist. And I don't know if it's just the way he had his wrist bent when he went for the check or what, but his wrist basically bent wrong.
It's one of those injuries. I've seen a lot of people that, again, now that it's done, hindsight's 2020, but they were lambasting the Hawks for, they should never have sent Kirby Dach to the World Juniors. This was a mistake. It's not worth it. How ridiculous. No. No, this was a great opportunity for Dach. He was going to be a captain. He was going to represent his country. It was a wonderful opportunity for his development, for his character, for everything. It was going to get him reps, playing meaningful games. This is the kind of injury. If he had gotten slammed into the boards by somebody that was headhunting, okay, now we've got to think about, was this worth it? This injury on a standard check that you do 100 times, easy. It was just bad luck. He could have slipped in the shower just as easily and been out. This could have happened in any sort of game, but it happened at the World Junior in an exhibition game of all things, not even an actual game. It sucks. I'm super bummed because I don't think this is going to affect his development long term. I think he's going to have all the time in the world to rehab it. The Hawks are not going to rush him back. There's no reason to.
No, of course not.
It's going to give other people opportunities. I'm really hoping that we get Strome signed now. Any day, Stan, if you're listening, let's get Strome wrapped up. But it's just a shame that we're going to lose that time watching Dach and helping him develop in that end. It's just a fluke, and it was unfortunate.
And that's the thing, hindsight's 2020. I mean, if you ask, let's say this injury wouldn't have happened, how many fans would you have seen complaining about he shouldn't have played at World Juniors, period, blah, blah, blah? You wouldn't have seen any.
No,
that's the thing. And, people are like, well, you already made the NHL, blah, blah, blah. That's irrelevant. The fact is that this was literally going to be a measuring stick for him. How does he measure up against literally his top peers when he's playing with people just about the same age, and he's literally getting to captain a team like Canada, for example, which is great for leadership, which again, eventually Jonathan Toews is going to have to retire. I mean, Kirby Dach seems to be like the guy that Chicago might be starting to groom towards that role anyway.
Well, and Toews said the World Juniors and captaining World Juniors made him who he is. He said that was one of the huge pieces of my development, which I'm sure had a hand in the Hawks being like, cool, Kirby, go be young Toews.
Yep.
It's worth the risk.
It sucks that it happened, but it's a fluke. It happens. He, like you said, he got to slip in the shower. Like these fans that are revisionist fans, they wouldn't have said anything had he scored, a hat trick in the first game.
God no. What was I gonna say? It's gone.
If it's important, I'll come back to you.
You know what? Maybe.
if you build it, it will come.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but really, that's the thing. I mean, hindsight's 2020. Any team would have loved to have put a young player in this position, captaining a team like Canada that, by the way, is super star-studded if you haven't checked the roster.
It's like 14 first-round picks.
What is it?
Look at what they did to Germany today. It was a massacre.
What was it like? What was it like?
14-2?
Yeah, say like 14-2. I knew they scored 14.
I mean, America won like 11-0 against Austria.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's gross.
But that's just the thing. Hindsight's hindsight. Like as Lions fans, Jordan, or you're a Titans fan, sorry, but as Lions fans, you say all the time, well, we drafted Eric Ebron when we could have drafted Aaron Donald, or we drafted Javine Tavai, or we could have drafted DK Metcalf. Yes, those players would have been perfect. But, poor management and everything. Like, we're not GMs. We don't make the decisions. I'm not even smart enough to make those kinds of decisions for a team. So we're fans. Shut up and just deal with what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not pulling out my wallet and paying the contract. If my team signs somebody, I say, okay, I trust their judgment. Let's see how it goes.
And that's the thing. I mean, management made a decision about Kirby's development. They said, we want you here. We want you playing these games and you want to play them. So awesome. Let's make it happen. They let it happen. And a freak accident happened. I mean, it's not like management knew that this was going to happen before this happened. He didn't know it was going to happen.
Flimsy. Maybe we shouldn't send him.
If it had been a regular NHL season and World Juniors was halfway through the season, he wouldn't have gone. There would have been, we wouldn't have sent him. It wouldn't have been worth it. He was already in the middle of a season. Because of the way this broke down, that it was happening before the season started, there was no true risk that, he's going to miss, the reward outweighed the risk at that point.
Exactly.
Yep.
And now we have Carl Soderberg to shore up our centers with the doctor at the doctor.
Yep. So you guys signed Carl Soderberg. It's just 1 year, 1 year.
1 year, 1 mil.
Yeah.
It's a low
Bobby Ryan
risk.
deal.
I know that there's people that are upset about it. I'm not thrilled by it. I think that there's a lot of people who could slot in to the 3C position. Frankly, Walmart has an opportunity to slot in there. Kurashev could certainly fight for a position. If Shaw's healthy, he's the 3C. Like, there's a lot of combination. We have Kampf and Carpenter, who are all centers. I think that Soderberg, I saw a theory that I kind of like, that if you sign him and he does decently, you trade him at the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
The Red Wings method.
Yeah. You get a guy that can chip in a couple points for you here and there. He's got like 35 points in the last year. Awesome. Like, that's what we need, is a little depth scoring. And we put him on the 3C. You know, he's 35, so he's older, but he's also got the mentorship there. He'll help some guys. And if he's decent enough, we flip him for a 3rd round pick or something.
Yeah.
It's a win for us.
Jordan, was it Vanek that we signed like back-to-back seasons and traded him both seasons?
Yeah, I think it was Thomas Vanek.
The Red Wings method.
Well, I mean, the Arizona did that with Vermette in 2015. They traded him to us for a 1st round pick. We got the cup, so it was wonderful. And then he re-signed with Arizona after the season ended. So I get it.
And that's also the thing. I mean, like, this contract isn't making or breaking the Hawks by any means. This is literally a 1 year, $1 million contract. And also, he's not taking away really meaningful minutes from somebody playing like a top 6 role. He's literally playing either your 3rd or 4th line center. And this is basically, I mean, I call it a bar contract. He is setting a bar for the organization, and the organization is basically saying to other young players, you will get this position if you can jump over this bar. That's basically what this contract is.
And if you can beat Carl Soderberg in a hand-to-hand combat, you get the 3C.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yep. There you go.
But that's basically what this contract is. It's a position-based contract for depth that they're using as like a measuring stick for their players. That's all this is. This isn't some big contract that's inked a lot of money. And like you said, if he does okay this season, you flip him at the draft or at the trade deadline for like even just like a 4th or 5th rounder. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got something for literally nothing.
And if there's enough, if we see somebody that takes the 3C from him, I also don't mind him sitting. Mm-hmm. He becomes suddenly our 13th forward, and he knows the score. Like, he knows where he's at right now. You could either bury him in Rockford or, bury Brandon Peary in Rockford. One of them can be your 13th forward, someone that you can slot in for games where maybe you need a little more experience. Maybe you need someone that has his qualities or whatnot. He's not going to blow up our youth movement. He's not going to throw off our, chemistry or what's going on. He's just another piece that can shore up. And I'm fine with that.
He's there to fill a spot.
Yeah. And you're right, Jordan. He's there as a threshold for people to clear. Okay, this is where it's at. I got to at least be here if I want to be the 3C.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm good with that.
And that's the thing. Like, say he comes in and no one bypasses him for the 3rd line center position.
That's a problem.
If that's really what happens, then he wasn't stopping anybody from really taking meaningful minutes at the NHL level anyway.
Exactly.
So this isn't something that's really stopping a player from entering like the NHL at this point. This is, like I said, it's a bar that the team is saying, you need to be higher than this.
I mean, that's what Cody Franson was for us a year or 2 ago.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good defenseman that, okay, you just got to be better than him.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Yep.
And that's the thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with having players like that either. Those players,
Every
like, they're not dumb. They know who they are. Like, they know what their roles are on the team. Like,
they're
they know
money.
Yeah. Like, I mean, ask any professional athlete, like, especially in a sport like hockey where the spaces are pretty limited, no hockey player in the world is going to, at least anyone who can put their ego aside, is going to say, no, I will not accept $1 million to play basically a bottom six role for you. I will not do that. And almost any player in the world would be thrilled to get to play bottom six on the best league in the world and to make $1 million a year doing it. There's no hard feelings there. You made $1 million playing a sport that you should enjoy.
Look at Mike
reminds
Hoffman.
me.
He's signed a PTO with the Blues either today or yesterday. That's a perennial 30-goal scorer that is on a PTO. Like, you take what you can get, especially right now with the COVID world.
Yeah, Jordan, what you're saying just reminded me of an old comedy show, Blue Mountain State, college football TV show, where the star of the show is the backup quarterback. And he's like, this is the perfect gig. I'm a quarterback, so I can get girls, but I'm a backup, so I can just sit on the sideline and not have to do anything. Like, these players, I'm not going to turn down a contract to play for a professional sports team, even if I'm getting like 10 minutes a game. Like, if I'm 35, 36, 37 on the tail end of my career and someone's offering me a contract, I'm taking it.
God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the signing personally. I think it's a perfectly fine signing, and the Hawks are out $1 million. And that's assuming this doesn't work. They're out $1 million.
Exactly.
It's not like Stephen Weiss.
No.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I didn't want to bring that up again because, it's goddamn Stephen Weiss.
We got a new Stephen Weiss and Justin Abdelkader, but that again, we'll talk about that a different day.
I can't hate Justin Abdelkader so much because he's a hometown kid.
Yeah, he did a lot for the team. Like,
it's not his fault Ken Howland wanted to pay him a shit ton of money.
Well, exactly. What's he gonna do? Say no to that contract? No. That's gonna age poorly.
No, don't do that.
What did he sign? It was like 8 years. What was he making? 4.25. I want to say he was making.
That's around the time when people are just getting absurd contracts. Like Ilya Kovalchuk got that like 11-year, $200-something million contract. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that was a weird. There was a weird little period of time where
the Parise and the Suter contract in Minnesota, when they should have came to Detroit.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the situation. I think. I mean, it's not a bad situation for Chicago to be in. I mean, I'll put it this way: you could have made a lot dumber signings.
Oh God, yeah. I'm constantly worried that we're gonna. So I'm thrilled that we filled that with Carl Soderberg.
We can move on to the Red Wings side of the podcast if you guys are all right with that. We don't really have a ton to talk about this week with the Wings, but there are just, I think, really two things that I want to talk about. The first being is that the Detroit Red Wings basically called back players from the Czech Republic League. For anybody who hasn't really been keeping up, I believe December 30th is when their camp starts for training camp. They recalled Michael Rasmussen, Matthias Brome, Philip Zadina, Philip Hronek, and Gustav Lindstrom back to the U.S. But so basically, those players are either going to be playing in the NHL for the Red Wings, or they're going to be basically red. I think it's been coined like the taxi squad or something like that. Squad. So basically, they're going to be traveling with the team or either playing. So that's sort of what's the timeline looking for. I'll be honest, though. Michael Rasmussen of those was the big surprise to me. I thought he looked okay in Grand Rapids last year. It was not amazing, but I thought he looked okay. Yeah. I think it's interesting that Detroit might be looking at him to actually get playtime this year.
I agree. But, we just talked about him recently and how he looks like he could be great. Like, he's a big guy, but he moves like, a smaller guy when he gets the chance, like we saw in the Griffins. Maybe Yzerman and Blash will see something that we're not.
I mean, maybe they're going to try to groom him for like a bottom six winger or center position this year. I mean, I'm trying to think of our center depth. Like, I mean, obviously Larkin's playing top line center, and then you've got Filppula / Fabry as your second line center. I think they'll probably play Glendening as third line center, so maybe they're just going to have him play fourth line center just because he's a bigger body guy and he's not going to have as much responsibility on the fourth line or have like the expectations.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not expecting to go to the Cup or the playoffs this season. Give him a chance to see what he can do.
Yeah,
in its shortened season.
Yeah.
The one that makes me scratch my head is Brome.
okay.
I mean, I don't remember seeing him much for the Wings. I didn't really get a chance to see much of the Griffins, but out of the names, like Lundstrom, I can see because he's a defender that could float between the Griffins and the Wings. So yeah, we could have him. Zadina, and then Hronek is our top pairing defenseman. So yeah, Brome was the one. Like Rasmussen, I was a little okay. Rasmussen, like we could see him, but Brome was the one that I was more scratching my head about.
Okay. I mean, I'm not sure how much you follow the Wings prospect pool, Tim, but is there like one player on that list you're like, kind of surprising or no?
For some reason, I've talked to you guys about this. I've followed Rasmussen a little bit. I think I drafted him in like NHL 16 or something. He was like my first pick, and it's a name that stays with you. But I think that he could be a really good either third or fourth, a bottom six center he's got like you said, that big body, he's shifty, he's able to make some plays. It wouldn't surprise me even if they had Glendening lock down the 4C and that becomes a shutdown fourth line, and you put Rasmussen in that third line, which is a limited like scoring checking line. I could see that happening and giving him some offensive zone matchups, some defensive zone matchups, things to sort of test out where he's at in his different ranges of development. I'm really excited to see if he gets some playing time this year, because I feel like it's time to see what he's got and see if he can hang with the club. Some guys, their game translates better. He might step up and thrive, or he might stutter and falter, and you put him back. That's totally fine. That's where we're at. That's the one I'm really excited to see where he's at this year.
Okay. I mean, obviously, I don't think any of us are questioning, Philip Zadina or Philip Hronek. I mean, Zadina was on pace for 20 goals as a rookie, playing with the likes of Franz Nielsen, and I think he had like a short stint with Luke Glendening, but regardless, on pace for 20 goals, playing with the likes of Franz Nielsen is not bad for a rookie.
No.
Now imagine him with a Larkin.
Yeah, if I honestly think if he had been with Larkin full time this year, he probably would have had 30 goals. And then and then Philip Hronek, obviously not a question mark at this point. No. We saw him take a huge development step last season. I think he was logging like 23 to 26 minutes a night most games. And I mean, yes, part of that was he was forced to because Detroit had just ridiculous amounts of injuries on the blue line, but
he still was that superstar Trevor Daley at that time.
But I mean, obviously he's not a question mark anymore coming over. Other players, though, I kind of want to talk about, and this was a fun one. Did either of you guys watch the World Juniors when Sweden was playing, and the fantastic play from Raymond to Soderblom?
No.
I've watched that clip at least 30 times now.
All right.
Mainly because it goes so quickly, I'm trying to figure it out. But once I figured it out, I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful.
So like the first 4 or 5 times I watched that clip, I watched it on Twitter. And so it's on a phone, the screen's really small. Like I'm watching, I'm like, what is even going on in this clip? And I finally saw it blown up on TV. Lucas Raymond has looked fantastic for Sweden.
That's awesome.
I think honestly, he's a lot closer to the NHL than people give him credit for. In terms of just players we've talked about on the show, he reminds me a lot of Kirby Dach in terms of NHL readiness. I think with a little bit more weight, he becomes a force in the league. His passing is just fantastic. His positioning is great. He just seems to have everything right now. It's just literally size that's holding him back at this point.
And he's hungry to like just dominate.
I mean, they put up, it was a piece on the Athletic that was put on. I think it was like a week ago. They had like a talk with him. He loves being put in those high intensity, just highly competitive, we need something to happen moments. And the fact is, he's stepping into his own really well. And then Soderblom has been an interesting player as well. Nobody really expected much out of him this year, I don't think either. But his goal at World Juniors was really awesome. It was basically like a between the legs shot on the goalie. Just great heads up play by the team. I really like our players out of Sweden that have been drafted and the players that have gone to play there. He's not playing right now in the World Juniors, I don't think, but more at Seider even. So many people were questioning that pick when it got made, and people were saying, man, the Wings could have traded back and picked him up.
He was going to get picked.
He was going to, like, if Detroit would have passed on him and gotten somebody else, I honestly think that Detroit fans would have been asking why we didn't take him. If you don't follow advanced stats, I think you should, because advanced stats show that Moritz Seider is literally dominating the Swedish Elite League at this point. Again, Athletic is a fantastic place. They actually broke down like his stat lines for like advanced stats. He is
so good. It's scary.
He is far and away the best defenseman in the Swedish Elite League right now. He has everybody else beat by a mile. He truly looks like that definitive franchise top pair defenseman that Detroit desperately needs.
Oh, yes. Say it again.
I mean, really, he looks on par with a big defenseman like Drew Doughty. I mean, I didn't think he was that big, but man, watching his like just hits these past couple weeks playing with Rogel, he makes Rogel a completely better team on his own. There's no way he doesn't play Detroit.
That has been the hole we have been missing since Lidstrom retired. Like, no one has ever been able to fill, like, no one can fill his skates, but no one's been able to fill like anywhere close to that role since he retired. And I think Seider, with what we're seeing from him, could become that next top defenseman for Detroit that we've just been so solely missing.
And that's the thing. Detroit has not had a big body defenseman who can skate, who can score, who can just play the puck constantly.
So smart.
And that he literally has all of the tools, and he's showing it right now in the Swedish Elite League. He runs over everybody. And he's like 20 years old.
Like we said before the show started, I'm very, very excited for you guys. And I love seeing a player like Seider develop. I am going to be livid when he like lays a big hit on Kirby Dach or somebody like that. I'm going to be very upset. But until then, super exciting. This guy really is a beast, and I'm thrilled for you guys on that end.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing. Like Sweden, I think, really seems to have been coming into their own in terms of just like developing players in general. Yeah. I mean, they've always been good at developing players. Sweden has had ample superstars come out.
Sedins, Zetterberg, Franzen, Kronwall, Lidstrom, everybody.
Hjalmarsson.
Yeah. But it seems like in the past couple of years, they have really taken us another step forward in terms of helping produce just, I don't like to say generational, but really like these players who are like fringe generational players and get them produced quickly. Now, granted, Seider's a German player, but in terms of like actually developing into a franchise level defenseman, the Swedish Elite League is pushing him to that, and he is taking charge of it. Lucas Raymond is looking to be an elite player already. And yeah, he hasn't played the NHL yet, but if his skills translate to the NHL, he's going to be among the top wingers in the league, and it shouldn't even be close.
Well, I think the Swedish league has solidified its place as like the number 3 league in the world after the NHL and the KHL.
Yeah.
And it shows. It's exciting to watch. It's developing phenomenal talent, like you said. It's putting together the most complete games that I've seen outside of the NHL or the KHL.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. The awesome thing about the Swedish league is that you don't have to be 18 to play in it. So like players get access to that high-end competition sooner.
Yep.
When they're smaller, they have to learn how to be smarter. They have to learn how to be faster, or they have to be just quicker on like decisions. I think it's awesome that Sweden is letting players come in before they're 18 to play. I think it's been great for them development wise. And it has. I think it's cemented Sweden as a powerhouse development country. I mean, they've developed great talent before. We've seen it. Nick Lidstrom, Zetterberg for the Wings have just been two fantastic ones, obviously. But really, it seems like they're taking that next step forward to get themselves in line like a country like Canada for producing just these franchise level guys. The World Juniors in particular, I mean, I guess we can kind of wrap with World Juniors talk for a little bit. Canada has been very good. I mean, it also helps when you have Bowen Byram, Jamie Drysdale,
Dylan Cousins.
Yep, Dylan Cousins.
I think Byfield is there.
Yep, Byfield's playing for him. Why am I blanking?
Nick Suzuki.
Yep, I think Suzuki's playing there. I mean, it's about as loaded as it's about as loaded as the year that Tavares was playing.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's they're gonna run. The only team in my mind that can really compete against them is USA.
I mean, Russia, they looked pretty decent, but even then, like,
I don't see the depth for
they
Russia.
don't have it. No,
you've got guys that are going to be first and second line players in the future playing on the fourth line for Team Canada right now. Like, there's no way. Unless they really screw up and get cocky, which is a distinct possibility. They look so good.
Yeah.
It's offensive.
Like, it's ridiculous. Like, they lost Kirby Dach and they still looked amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, goaltending, I think, has not been as good as it could be for Canada. I mean, I don't think it's as good as, Askarov. Askarov was amazing when I watched him play. I think Nashville is going to absolutely be thrilled with that pick once he really develops. I don't know how much you guys have really been following Askarov since he got drafted, but he put on a clinic at the World Juniors.
He went to Nashville, so he's dead to me.
He won't be dead to you when he's blanking you with shutouts.
He's going to be twice as dead to me then.
No, because Zadina's going to fill those nets. He said he would.
Yeah, I mean,
who of your guys' favorite teams been to watch World Juniors if you've gotten a chance to watch? Because, I mean, aside from just like the star power, I have really liked watching Sweden. Sweden, I don't know why. I like their players.
I haven't gotten to watch as much as I would have liked. I've been watching primarily clips.
Me too. But the clips I've seen, Canada, USA, Sweden.
Yep.
Fun to watch.
That's about fair. I'm obviously pulling for USA. But it's so good to see our development league and the kids that are coming out of the US national team now. We're really holding our own. And I think we're making as real a push as ever to show that we're developing just as quality of players as Canada.
Especially like our colleges, like as we saw like last episode when I pulled up Tankathon, and a variety of the players for the US were all University of Michigan.
Yep.
Their hockey team is just ridiculous.
Yeah, the USNDP and our college programs now, we're really closing the gap. And that's really exciting because that just means more quality players that are going to be able to enter the league.
I wish I could say the same about U.S. soccer, but maybe someday.
Listen, one thing at a time.
I mean, the women's team, phenomenal, love them.
Oh my God, incredible.
Our men's team has some young guys, but it's just poor management.
I mean, I think that's kind of unfair, like of an expectation for soccer, though, man. I mean, like Literally, literally, like across the ocean, soccer is life to a lot of
It is.
countries.
Oh, of course it is. Like they have their academies, like where we go to normal school, but if you're good enough at soccer, you go to school at the academy while you're doing soccer for that team. So like the team I follow, like we have players that are playing for us now that have been playing for us since they were 7. Like they've been training with the team, like the under 7s, then the under 10s, and then 13, 14, and then they make whatever. So like we don't have that, even like for our sports like baseball and football and stuff. We don't really have that.
Well, that's
That's what
Manchester
school is for.
United just signed Wayne Rooney's 11-year-old son.
Yep,
Like
they did.
that's absolutely bonkers to me.
Yep.
But that's not unheard of.
Oh, I mean, they take it like deathly serious over there. I mean, literally, like that facility that Manchester built a couple of years ago. What they invest, like I think it was like $3 billion into like a development facility. Like that's not chump
Something
change.
like that.
Yeah.
Nope. That is their lifeblood. They're like, there's a great Netflix documentary that I still need to pull up and watch called Sunderland Till I Die.
Ooh.
And it follows the team and just really the fans. Like it's their lifeblood, and just the hard times that team has been going through the last couple of years. Like it's a really good documentary. Even if you're not a soccer fan, I suggest watching it. That's what I've been told, but I'm a soccer fan, so
The culture that revolves around soccer and football is its own fascinating world to dive into. And I get hooked. I fall down the rabbit hole of YouTube videos and documentaries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It is so different. The
We
closest thing we have in the States is like the Buffalo Bills Mafia, where they're just absolute insanity.
like we went during our honeymoon. We wrapped our honeymoon in Liverpool, seeing Everton open up their season,
God, that's
and
good.
it was Wayne Rooney's return. Like he returned to Everton for 1 year before he went to DC United,
Yep.
and he scored the game-winning goal. And the whole game, we were just standing up, cheering, singing, everything. And I'm like, why don't we have this here? Like the same can be said like the DEL in the German league, like watching highlight
they're
videos
electrifying. It's
Oh,
so
yeah.
of
much
Moritz
fun.
Seider, and the fans there are just constantly cheering, chanting, everything. Like, why can't we do that here with our sports? We're too busy choking down our 4th hot dog and drinking freaking Bud Light. Like, why can't it be like that?
Because
It's
hot
just
dogs
so
and
exciting.
Bud Light are great.
True.
All right, well, I'm going to bring us back around the campfire. But no, I think that's pretty much all that we have to discuss on tonight's episode of the podcast. Like I said, kind of a light week for us for news. Luckily, though, training camps are starting back up soon. And then January 13th, it's officially announced. It's happening.
Let's do it.
The league is actually coming back, and we're going to have games, so we'll finally have a at least somewhat regular schedule again, where we can actually do like game recaps, which will be good.
And the rivalry is renewed.
That's the other thing. The rivalry is back.
Rivalry this year. I am ecstatic.
I mean, what is it? The Wings and the Hawks play each other 8 times, I think it is this year.
Something around that.
Yeah. We start off with 4 games against Carolina.
So, I looked at the division realignment map that the league basically put out for this COVID season. Why isn't that just the map every season? Like it literally makes perfect sense. Teams don't have to travel far. You're not changing like time zones for game times.
I'm thrilled about the no 9:30 games for like the Hawks. That's going to be great.
Like why doesn't the league literally just adopt this format and just say this is it? The only thing that I can understand fans being mad about is that Canada is its own division, which I get it because it's a lot of travel, but even if you just divided the map that same way and just made it like straight lines instead of I want to say current, but it's not current. You guys know what I'm talking about, the regular schedule.
Yep. Yeah.
This makes so much more sense.
Exactly. And that was like Tim said, that was the one thing I hated back when we were part of the Western Conference was those constant, like for us, 10:30 games where I'm like, I don't want to stay up to watch us face the Kings. Oh, especially if we had to meet them in the playoffs. That freaking sucked.
Yeah.
I like these new divisions that the league set up for the upcoming season. It just makes more sense. It makes more sense for travel. It makes more sense for game times. It makes more sense for rivalries, considering a lot of the old school rivalries are back in the same division.
And who knows? Maybe viewership will be up, and they'll be like, you know what? Let's keep it.
Well, what I'm hoping is, I mean, obviously they're going to have to restructure everything when Seattle comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I want to be able to play McDavid or whoever. I want to be able to play other teams, not just in my division.
Mm-hmm.
But if we structure the divisions in a way that are a little more time zone friendly and a little more eco-friendly with like plane travel and whatnot, and we do more pockets of 4 games or 3, like against a team, so we're decreasing some of the back and forth. I think that's going to be a great idea. Obviously
it's
not
like
just playing your division all year, but having that as the structure, and then doing like 2 games a year against the others. Yeah, I think that's going to make more sense all around.
It's like the baseball method, how they do it in baseball, where like the Tigers play the White Sox for like 3-4 games in a row, and then both teams go somewhere else. It saves, like you said, the economy, like eco-friendly, all that kind of stuff. So like I know like once COVID restrictions are kind of gone, and I think they should keep the divisions because better time zones, all that stuff. But you can still open up to like, okay, the Wings will travel. We'll play 2 games in the season against the Los Angeles Kings. They'll come to us. We'll go to them. It's like baseball, where the Tigers will meet the Cubs for like one series in the season.
Right.
Like do that.
And that's the thing. I mean, there's going to be 32 teams in the league when Seattle ends up entering the league. So, say 82 game season, you're going to visit, what would that be? If they do 4 divisions, you're looking at 7 or 8 teams in a division. There are going to be a couple odd ones, or no, it'll be exactly 8 teams in each division if you have 4 divisions.
If we structure it evenly,
and
there will be 8 in each division.
And look at the NFL. The Lions don't meet the Patriots every season. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Like if we don't face the San Jose Sharks one season, but we face them like twice the next season, cool, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on board with that.
And like that's the thing. Like the league, from what I understand, like the current system that they had, not this upcoming season, but the system before, where you played every single arena at least once a season. I understand that they do that. So like, let's say you're an Avalanche fan living in Boston, you can actually see the Avs play near you. I understand why they did that, but at the same time, you've got to be able to get that day or at least that time off of work to go catch that game. Mm-hmm. You've also got to be actually free that time to go catch that game. You're buying the ticket at that point, and you're literally going to get to see it one time. Yeah, it's cool to be able to see your team once a year, but I would much rather get to watch my favorite team play multiple times a year in front of me and get to watch 2 or 3 games in a row, right, instead of just once a year I get to see my favorite team. And the other team,
being a Red Wings fan in DC, like I'd love to have them come to DC for like 3 game stretch. Like I can go this game and that game.
Yeah, it provides you with options at that point.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a perfect example of somebody who doesn't have a traditional 9-to-5 job. So for me, in order to just get whatever random day it is that, the Hawks come to Detroit to play, that can be kind of hard for me. But you know what, if I don't get to have it one year and then like the next year they come 3 times, like and it's 3 days in a row or whatever, it's a lot easier for me to get one of those days off.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like fans can pick and choose what games they go to. I mean, you've got the diehard, like if a fan is in a country or a state that's not where their favorite team's at, you're gonna get to pick and choose those games, and you're gonna maybe even get to go see your favorite team more if you can carve out that time.
Yep, exactly.
I don't know. I really think that the league should look at this current setup that they have for the divisions and try to find a way to work the Canadian teams into those divisions, spread them out maybe a little bit so that you're keeping the time zones still pretty similar, but then most of the same teams in these divisions, and just do it because it just seems to make so much more sense logistically and everything like that.
The great thing about Canada is it stretches all the way across. So just if they're going to add them, just say, okay, since you're here, we'll drop you here. Since you're here, we'll drop you here. Since you're here, we'll drop you here.
Yeah.
Perfect. It'll kill a division. Well, then they'll have to separate one because they'll only have 3 divisions. But
still. Yeah, but I mean, you could kind of do like what they do with like Minnesota right now, for example, where Minnesota has to travel far. I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, the league can't help where, these cities are located, but they can at least try to accommodate. Yeah. I mean, I like these divisions that they have, and I think they should do them full time.
Of course. I think we've made some valid points. Gary Bettman, I know you're watching because this is your favorite podcast.
Gary loves us.
Keep this in mind. Keep it in mind.
Yeah, I think that actually is going to be everything that we have to talk about tonight, because I don't think there's really anything else going on in the league right now or with the other teams. So with all of that being said, I would like to thank everybody who's either watching or listening to the podcast. At the end of the day, this is a podcast that is by fans and for fans. There are no corporate sponsorships. There's no sort of like advertising deals or anything like that with anybody. So we can say what we want to say when we want to say it without having to toe like any sort of lines. But we do this for you guys because, I mean, this is what we're passionate about. If you want to get in contact with us, whether it be like fan mail or questions you want us to answer on the show, if you have topic ideas, whatever you want to engage with us with, there are a number of ways you can do that. You can either get in touch with us on Twitter. The Twitter handle is @StickBladePod. You can get in touch with us on YouTube. We're putting our shows on YouTube now. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on SoundCloud. You can email us at stickbladepodcast@gmail.com. Just plenty of ways to get in contact with us, however you like to use, social media or your electronic method of choice. So there are plenty of ways for you to do that. And as always, thank you guys again for tuning into the show. For your host, Jordan Linscott, and for my co-hosts, David Barnhouse and Tim Stompanato, this has been another edition of the Stickblade Podcast. You guys stay safe, stay warm, and have a happy holiday and a happy new year. Catch you guys later.
What? Did it again. Damn.